ladies and gentlemen, to the Whatnauts review show, our weekly book club style podcast here at the Whatnauts. Each week we have a different story to talk about. Could be a comic, could be a movie, TV show, you name it. We probably have one of them at least. We got all sorts of stuff for you guys to check out. This week, though, we are continuing and finishing our coverage on the comic book called Irredeemable. This is by Mark Waid and Peter Krause. And yeah, we are going to be discussing the final 3 volumes on this week. So I know I'm excited to talk about all of this. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson.
Yep.
How's it going, Melissa?
I'm okay. I am awake. You're awake as well.
Yes. I'm awake. You're awake. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, we haven't made you fall asleep yet, because we're only like a minute in. But yeah, good stuff. So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was fine. I made a pie.
Nice.
I took it to my parents' house and I cut the pie in half and they gave me half the turkey. Well, not half, a one woman sized amount of turkey and mashed potatoes and such. And then I packed it up in a little container and I'm like, okay, bye family. And then I went home to eat at my own place where I live.
You didn't stay on the opposite side of the screen and just be like,
dude. I was inside for the amount of time it took for my mom to carve the turkey, because she didn't carve it until I got there, because she wanted me to see the entire turkey intact.
Oh, man. Just so you believe that we got an entire turkey. It is real. It is not fake. Here it is. Yeah, that's good. We are recording this, I guess, that Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend there. We had a good Thanksgiving here. It was very small. One of my roommates had a brief COVID scare. One of his clients tested positive, so he went to go quarantine himself with another friend of his who was also having to get tested. I didn't hear about her, but thankfully at least his results came back negative. But that means he missed out on our Thanksgiving stuff. And it was so it was one less person here at the house. It was just me and my other roommate, as well as her father came by, and we had a small Thanksgiving meal, and it was really good.
Nice.
We ended up watching, I don't know if you've seen this, it's a Christmas movie with Vince Vaughn called Four Christmases.
No, I only know Fred Claus, starring Paul Giamatti as Santa Claus. I don't know this other one without Paul Giamatti in it, presumably. Otherwise, you would have said it is a Paul Giamatti film.
We just kind of put this on randomly. It's not my kind of film at all, right? It's like a holiday rom-com. It was actually pretty funny. It's
nice.
Not bad. Yeah, they're trying to vacation away from all of their families for the holidays, and something happens where literally every flight in the airport gets canceled, and so they're stuck there, and they now have to go to all of their families' Christmases, and each of their families are separated, so there's 4 families, and they have to go to 4 different Christmases, like in that same day. They're just like, well, we're stuck here now. I guess we have to go see the in-laws, and it was actually a lot better than I was expecting. So that is what I did.
Nice.
For the holidays. Before we get on to the comic and stuff like that, I do want to say we're in kind of a weird situation where my computer is acting up. Premiere Pro is not working like it normally should. So if you're listening to this right now, it probably means that we put out both the episode that we recorded the week prior and this one on the same weekend. Long story short, it's shutting down about 30 seconds after I open the program. It's not crashing, it's just turning off. And that's it. And I have spent multiple hours on support with Adobe.
Oof.
And they were just like, I don't know, maybe ask Microsoft. And then I spent multiple hours on support with Microsoft, and they're just like, I don't know, maybe go ask Adobe again. So no luck yet, but we will find a workaround very shortly, and hopefully that means you are listening to this right now. So there you go. That's the update with this. But let's talk comics.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Melissa, we are here with the final 3 volumes of Irredeemable. I've been excited to talk about this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, you so this whole thing started with me like being like, maybe we could do this one, and then you're like, I'll check it out and see. And then you came back and you're like, I read the first 80 pages and it was really good. Yes, let's do this one. So we've covered the first 4 volumes we did in part 1, which was episode 125. And then we did the next 3 volumes 5 through 7, for part 2, which was episode 130. And here we are with episode 134. And finishing up this book. Melissa, what do you think? Now that we are done with this book, what were your general thoughts on the ending of this book? It's one of those weird things where it's like we're continuing the coverage, so if you're listening to this one, hopefully you've also read the older stuff. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the ending of this book? Because man, I think this whole series is made just by what happens at the end of this book.
Yeah, the page before the ending, I could not have told you what the ending was. It's such a turn. I read for the last episode that we recorded on Irredeemable, I was talking about how I was so excited to see what was going to happen next. I might have just finished the whole comic later that day, which I did. So I finished the whole thing like several weeks ago. And last night I flipped through and reread the whole thing again to prepare for this. So you've been living with this ending for a while. And boy, is it a big one.
Now you know how I feel. Be like, Melissa,
right?
I think you'll really like this. This is good. But I can't tell you why. Yeah, so it's this whole series. It's a good series. It's only like 36 issues total, something like that. It's 10 volumes. Yeah, there's like 36 issues. And it's really short, but there's a lot that happens in this series. It's just jam-packed with stuff, and you don't really know where this is going to end up until the last page. And it's like, I would have never guessed, I would have never thought. They remade science, and I don't even know how they would have gotten to this thing. But yeah, I think this book is something special. Right? Like it's an interesting story. I still don't know if I would put this up there with like all-time greats. I think for a lot of people this may end up being kind of middling. But it's a surprise twist ending that I guarantee you didn't think about.
No.
Yeah. So.
And for original superhero stories that are clear pastiches and homages of other pre-existing, like big title superhero stories, I think this is outstanding within that genre.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. So, yeah, do we want to kind of do a synopsis of these 3 volumes of like the story so far? Here's where we're at.
Yeah, where I think where we left off last episode was Tony was on that he was in that asylum in the middle of a sun, way out in space somewhere. Qubit and Modius came to save him, and he escaped through the portal and like left them there. Well, we see he leaves Qubit there, and somebody like hit Modius's robot body, and we see the robot body fall over and crash, and so we don't know what Modius's actual consciousness is.
Yeah.
Just that one robot body is gone, so who knows?
Yeah. So that's kind of where we left off, and yeah, the Plutonian escaped to Earth, and we were like, uh-oh, what's gonna happen next? Here we go, big fight, big superhero fight at the end. And I guess these books kind of pick up with that. It's still it's still kind of this thing of just like, well, we're gonna work on one thing, okay, that won't work, okay, we're gonna work on this next thing, okay, that won't work, okay, what about this? No, that's gonna be plan B. And it's still just right up to the very end. You just have no idea what they're gonna do, how they're gonna stop him. But you can tell things are kind of coming to an end of like, okay, all the chess pieces are kind of in place. Let's make things happen. But yeah, like I mean, I sound like a broken record at this point. But yeah, like you don't expect the ending and what they end up doing with this thing. It's an interesting way to deal with a superhero problem, and
yeah,
then just like an interesting story idea too of like, what if this happened, right? I know I'm still being very vague with all of that, but yeah, it's an interesting ride, to say the least. Indeed. Do you have kind of like last general thoughts you want to say on the entire series before we get into spoilers and stuff like that?
What good character portraits. There's like, I love some of the main characters, but then there's other supporting characters. I'm like, I bet I would really love you too if we had to spend more time with you, which isn't a fault of the narrative. It's just, this is 10 volumes long. That's not that long.
Yeah, it's not that long, and each volume is only 4 issues, right? Or like a normal volume of comics usually might have 5, maybe 6 issues. So like, just imagine if they all had 5, right? How much more time we would have gotten to spend with all of these characters and stuff. Because yeah, there are some neat characters, and like you said, they are just like, okay, well, you can kind of tell that these are all just homages to different superheroes, or maybe there's some new ones mixed in there and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't get to spend enough time with them. You're like, I like you, but I still don't know you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, go check it out. I actually had to put together a Amazon wish list recently of all of the comics that I was interested in, because my aunt wanted to buy me some comics, and I already own the first 2 volumes of Irredeemable, but they have a giant omnibus of this whole story, and I was like, I'm gonna put that on there just in case, so I can own the whole thing. But
man, I want that.
Yeah, I think it's only like, don't quote me on this, I think there might be like a 2-parter. I think there's like Omnibus Volume 1 and Omnibus Volume 2.
Okay.
So I think they're like $50 or $60 each. I don't know.
Okay.
I could be wrong with that. Don't quote me. But yeah, they're out there. They have some nice versions of that you guys can pick up. So,
cool.
There you go. Or go check it out on Comixology Unlimited, like we did. But without further ado, let's get into our housekeeping, and then we will get on to our spoiler section. Yeah. So if you guys did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts. You guys can find out more information on our website, which is thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in the Whatnauts and all of our shows will pop up right there. If you like what we do, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. We have a $3 tier, which has all kinds of exclusive content. I still need to finalize what we're doing for our next crossplay exclusive, which is what we have coming out the pipeline next. But I've pitched an idea to them, so hopefully in the next couple weeks here we can record that. Melissa, you and I also need to figure out a time to finally record the Star Wars Lego holiday special. We were supposed to do that a while ago, but I had double booked myself, and we pushed it to this weekend, and now we're having all the problems with Premiere. So we have to get that done.
It will be quite delayed. It's a lot to go through for a 47-minute TV special.
Yes, indeed. But I still think it'll be a lot of fun. Let's see, what else do we got here that I need to mention? We do have a end of the year kind of retrospective coming up. I believe we are going to be recording that on the weekend of December 20th. More details will come on that, so be following us on Twitter, which is @thewhatnauts. And yeah, we'll have more details on that, but we will be live streaming that out, assuming everything works, and all that stuff. But yeah, that's I think gonna be like an all afternoon affair. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna be eating and drinking and having fun and reflecting on all of this stuff that we made this year here on the review show, on the Captain's Log, on Crossplay, all sorts of stuff. I think the whole gang will be there, or at least will be in and out during the call.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it's all gonna work, but we'll figure it out. So be on the lookout for that. I'm super excited for that. I think it was the very first one that we did, or maybe the second one, which is where we met you, Melissa. You came and joined us in the live stream chat.
Yeah, it might have been the second one. Yeah.
Me and Paul were just like, who is this? We love them. They're great. No one listens to us, and
there's a voice in the shadows, and it's me.
Exactly. So good times. Be on the lookout for that. Last but not least, though, a big thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, for helping us out and supporting us. We appreciate it. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for all you have.
Thank you.
Done. Indeed. Okay, let's get on to spoilers. There we go.
Okay, I couldn't hear the noise.
Oh, okay. I'll have to fix that for next time.
Yeah,
then.
but you like bobbed your head in tune to the music, so I knew music was happening because you wouldn't just do that.
Yeah, wouldn't just take it back. You no longer get to listen.
You've heard it enough.
Yeah.
You must have memorized it by now.
Indeed. Okay, man. So should we start with the big twist ending?
Sure, yeah, let's start there and work backwards.
We kind of have to, because that's what I've been waiting to talk about this whole thing. Yeah, so if you guys have not read this series, go back, check it out. I'm giving you one more chance to pause this, go listen to our old ones, covering the first 7 volumes, and then go read the final 3, and then come back here. Yeah, so the way they solve this whole thing, they send his spirit, his like consciousness, like all his good part, the ideals of like he was
the essence of the Plutonian.
He was gonna be the greatest superhero. He was gonna be a good boy. He was gonna be super strong and smart and loving and caring, and he was gonna be the world's greatest superhero. And they send his essence out to multiple dimensions, and one of those dimensions was the Earth we live on. Me.
Yes, ours.
Melissa, the one that we live on. And it hits a young I guess Jerry, I don't remember which one is which. The creators of
tell them apart.
Superman. And they're like, I got an idea. I know it. I solved it. The thing we've been working on. And then they start drawing.
This is our hero for the funny pages.
Yeah, and then they start drawing Superman.
Yeah, and to have a narrative that is from page one, it's like, oh, this is a Superman type character. This is a Superman archetype.
Yeah.
It's basically what if Superman went bad is the elevator pitch for the story. So to have it wind up in the situation where it's like, I'm going to give you a second chance, Qubit tells him. He's like, I'm going to send your essence through the multiverse. You will find a better home. You will find a better purpose. You have the chance to do this all over again and live right. And it loops around to where he becomes, actual Superman.
Yeah, Superman is not the archetype. The Plutonian is the archetype.
What we've been playing at the whole time, it is going to truly become that, which is very sweet. And I think it's a great homage to Superman. Like, hey, Superman, like, there are many imitators. It's always going to be you. Like, we're never going to do better than Superman. In a bunch of other multiverses, we could all try, and we're not getting there. The best anyone can hope for is to be Superman. So if the Plutonian gets a second chance at life, that's the only step up that he could become is just Clark Kent.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think last time we covered this, you somewhere in there you used the word like, this is a deconstruction of superheroes, or maybe you mentioned that last week on the show and you were explaining what we were doing. I don't remember. But yeah, you use this idea of it's a deconstruction of superheroes. What if Superman goes bad? All that stuff. And yeah, I think like with a good deconstruction also comes the reconstruction, right? Like it's one thing to just rip things apart and then not do anything with them. Like you have to do something so interesting and I think so revolutionary with that to be like, and I'm fine not putting them back together.
Right. A deconstruction.
Maybe that's where Watchmen sits, right?
Yeah, like a deconstruction, I think, is intellectually exciting, but emotionally it kind of leaves something missing. You're right. We want to see things built back up again at some point.
Yeah.
Which is what this story does.
Yeah, it builds it up in a way that you don't expect. And like we've been saying, like you just don't see this coming. But yeah, it is this like sweet, touching moment of just like, oh, so that they're making Superman. Wow. This is kind of cool. Like Golly Gallagher's,
The best parents anybody can hope for are Siegel and Schuster.
Yeah. It's just this like sweet, unexpected moment, and it hits you because it's like it's really only one page. I think there's a page before it where you see this young kid like running, and he's just like, I gotta go see my friend, and then he runs inside this house, and they're just like, well, invite yourself in, why don't you? Like, geez, where are you going? Runs upstairs, and he's like, Jerry, I got it. I figured it out. I've had an epiphany. Here it is, Superman. We can do it. And it's just like, wow, this is something special. So I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, now that we've mentioned the ending, I guess we should take it back some and start out with where Volume 8 started.
The Plutonian, he's back on Earth. He's got his group of asylum breakouts, his motley crew of aliens with him. They're hiding out in the Pyongyang, North Korea hotel. Are you familiar with that hotel?
Not by name, no.
Okay. Well, it's called the Hotel of Doom. It's this giant like Christmas tree pyramid type structure that they started building in North Korea in like the early 90s. And they're like, we're going to have the tallest hotel around. Like it's going to be taller than that hotel in South Korea. And we're going to make this a pinnacle. We're going to make this a tourism hub. North Korea is going to have a real glow up. And the project was just like a concrete shell for so long. Some other company in like the early 2000s or something came in and was like, okay, we'll work with you to at least cover the outside of the building so it looks like a building. And it's still incomplete. And it is like an interesting, like such a ghostly, grim place to use as a temporary hideout. But you can see that they're in actual hotel rooms, you know, within that building. I don't think those were ever built. I think it's just a husk. So I don't think that's true,
I have
but
no idea.
What a concept. Yeah.
Wow.
Look up this hotel. It's wild.
Interesting stuff. So yeah, like they're on Earth. They're trying to figure out what to do. They're wreaking havoc. And I think one of the scenes that we get is they're like finally giving a speech. The president is giving a speech. He's like, finally we can have peace. You know, we can live our lives. We can rebuild. We can return to normal, right? And as he's doing that, it like hard cuts to some like NASA like team, and they're just like, we're picking up something in quadrant 6. This doesn't look good, guys. We have no idea what it is. And then all of a sudden he just like laser eyes his big Plutonian logo right in the middle of America, and they're just like, St. Louis is gone, Montreal is gone. Should
have warned me, Kyle. Yeah, you see him destroy all these landmarks, including my own St. Louis Arch, and then it zooms out and he's carved his logo into America. But I don't think that lines up. I don't think that thing was over the arch.
Who knows? We'll never know exactly.
If you're gonna destroy my monument, at least make sure it's correctly placed on a map, please.
Maybe it was a fractal, and just the more you zoom in, the more of it there is, right? So it actually edged its way.
Okay.
You know, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's back, and the world doesn't know what to do, and it's a shit show out there. The world is now in more chaos than when all of this first started. And there's riots going on, all sorts of stuff, and the remaining superheroes and supervillains that have been working to kind of rebuild things, right, are just like, well, fuck. Now what? We can't fight him, we can't face him, but we also can't go outside because everyone is angry. Like, everyone has pitchforks and stuff, and they are out for blood because there's just nothing that anyone can do, right? So they're all stuck with just like, well, what do we do? And this is when I think we get our first clue of some of the pieces out there of what's good going on, because the Plutonian ends up confronting the Survivor, and Survivor has his little mind reader guy. I don't remember his name. Burrows, right? Because he burrows into their mind.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, read Plutonian's mind. Like, let me know what he's up. And the guy just turns around and runs and screams in horror and ends up killing himself. And we don't know it at the time, but he didn't read Plutonian's mind. He read someone else's mind. Again, I don't remember her name because you guys know me. It's terrible with names.
It's Cutter, who's one of the aliens that Tony picked up on this asylum inside of a sun.
Easy name.
Right. Like, it directly describes what she does.
What does she do? Cut her. She cuts herself. Cut her. Oh, I got it. Cutter.
Yeah, and like her Dante's Inferno deep within the layers of the Sun Asylum punishment, who said she had these claws and she would scratch herself and never feel any pain. She couldn't feel anything, but the people around her would they would get a cut on them. So Tony brings her along, and Modius's consciousness hopped from his robot body into that lady once he's like, okay, Plutonians form some sort of a bond with this lady. That's where I need to be because I want the bond with the Plutonian.
Yeah, which then makes the scene when they're in bed or like kind of in bed together, and he's just like, do your thing and hurt me, because I guess he's a masochist like that, or
perhaps
whatever. But
if you remember when the rest of the paradigm goes into his lair and Betty finds the room full of portraits and statues of herself, there is a Betty with like a whip in there. So
yeah, so I mean, he's like, he wants to feel something, and he now
certainly
can feel pain from this woman. So he's been doing that, but all of a sudden she's kind of stopped and been like, you know what, I kind of like you, like I don't want to hurt you anymore. And now we know why. It's like, oh, he doesn't just like, he's not starting to have a crush, like this is Modius inside of you. She's in love with you now, right? So she's like, I don't want to like hurt you.
Well, there's also the line where Modius as Cutter says, well, you were weaker back there on that Sun Asylum. Like, it was specifically designed to make you weaker because it was a prison of some kind. Back here on Earth, like, you're too strong for this to really work.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes that scene just like, oh, okay, that starts to make sense a little bit more. Just like where they're at there.
You see Modius as Cutter, ask Tony a couple times, what is it that you really want? I think we've seen Modius ask Tony that in other scenarios too. Maybe when he was in Samsara's body, he did that. Several times Modius turns to Tony and he's like, what do you want? I need, because Modius, the most intelligent man the world has ever seen, that's probably the one question he can't answer. He loves Tony. Tony's the center of his whole world. He wants to do whatever he can for Tony, but he's like, yeah, but what is it? I can't figure that out.
Yeah.
There's this man who's so powerful and can take anything, but what is it that he wants to have?
Yeah, indeed. I think, well, let me ask you this then. What do you think he wants?
Qubit gives us an answer where he's like, what you want is the chance to start over, which is what he gives him at the end.
Interesting way to look at that.
And that seems to work. Tony seems to agree with this. Tony he never overtly answers these questions.
Right.
Like, there's so much stuff that he doesn't talk about. Like, even like he very rarely addresses his own feelings about Modius. Like, Modius is around him. Modius obviously is in love with him. Everybody else knows Modius is in love with him. Tony never makes a statement about it.
Yeah.
He's never like, Modius, my worst enemy. I want him out of my sight. He doesn't say a thing. It's, I'm just as confused as Modius himself is. Like, do you kind of like him? You haven't said anything. I can't get a finger on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one way to interpret it. I think another thing would be like he really does actually want to be the number one like superhero, right?
Yeah.
The one that everyone can rely on. But it's just we've seen a string of events that went wrong, or that he took the wrong way, or just X, Y, and Z was somehow radicalized to end up going bad and having this resentment that's been there. And we get another view of that later on in this series when we see his actual origin story, and we find out what he is. So we'll talk more about that in a sec. But yeah, I think ultimately that is what he really wants, and I think which then kind of goes hand in hand with what you mentioned, where it's like Qubit doesn't know exactly, but he can at least be like, well, I know you want to like restart things and like give a second chance to do this again, so maybe we can at least do that.
Yeah.
You know, I can't make you be the best. You know, you've already royally screwed that one up, but maybe give you a second chance somewhere else in the multiverse.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what he wants, but like you said, he just doesn't answer it outright. So it's left up to some speculation of just like, well, maybe he wants this. Maybe he just wants true love. You know?
which is why I've been like flipping back through these comics, before we do these episodes. There is so much unsaid. There's so much left to the imagination. There's so much that you just have to infer on your own to try and get a complete picture of these people. I think it. No, I was going to say, like, I think it adds a lot of reread value to these comics.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say it's an interesting, because when we do see his origin story, the one thing that Plutonian does mention is that he wanted someone to care, right? He had that whole thing of just like, hey, I want someone to look after me and do all of that stuff, right? Am I mixing this up now? I'm in a haze now. Is this the did he like fake us? No, what am I? He didn't do this. What am I thinking of? I'm mixing my
I don't know.
story. What did I watch this weekend? I watched something where someone was like, I just wanted someone to care about me, so I faked that I had appendicitis and gave myself a scar. I don't. I don't.
It wasn't this.
I haven't been doing anything but playing video games this weekend, and I have no idea what it is.
Was this in Vince Vaughn's Four Christmases?
I have no idea. It might be. I have no idea.
Well, let's talk about the Plutonians' origin.
Sure.
And how we get there. So, the U.S. government, what was left of it, the like 5 people that are left in the government now after so much destruction. They make a team with, I think it was China, Japan, the UK, and Brazil, where all of these countries are now like shareholders in each other. And like they're all sharing resources and money and funds and support to like reconstruct everything. So it's like America presented by the UK, Brazil, China, and Japan. And this guy who like has to be president now is like, look, guys, I know it's tough, but this is our one option going forward. And I think this is going to lead to a more united world in the future. And then that's when the Plutonian rockets back in from outer space. Like, hey, guys, I'm back. I'm going to destroy the precious landmark, the St. Louis Arch. So then they have to go to another plan, which is, I think it's some sort of a Chinese official, I believe.
It was Community. What? The show Community.
Community?
There's an episode where Jeff Wanger meets his father. And it's like, I just wanted someone to care. I faked appendicitis and I gave myself the scar and all that stuff. And I got 17 cards and I keep them in a box to this day. That's what it is. Okay, sorry. Move on.
So there is the secret facility down in like the South Seas, South Pacific somewhere. And they have been holding these cosmic beings that were the Plutonians' parents. And they are benevolent beings. And they are trapped in this bubble of radiation that they have the power to escape from. And we find out that they never have. Even though they could easily break through this, they would not be harmed. They could go fly back out to cosmic space where they come from. They're like, no, that would kill like a third of humanity, all that radiation. So we stay exactly where we are. But then all these officials come together and they're like, this is our last option. This is going to kill like 2 billion people. But this is what we have to do to save 4 billion people. Like, this is our only option. So they release all of this radiation, like the bubble is popped, the trap is opened, radiation is sweeping across the earth, but these two cosmic beings, these like 12-foot tall, faceless, nameless, genderless, identical beings come floating out like, we have to find our son. Our son screwed everything up. Where are you, boy?
Yeah. We also learned that the radiation that was trapping them was in part made by Dr. Modius when he was a kid.
Yeah, when he's like this 10-year-old prodigy.
Where it shows the scientist, there's this young kid that has the exact same outfit that Modius has. Just that like
you
sweater
can tell
vest
it's him.
thing, right? And yeah, like if you don't pay attention, you might not miss that until they mention it. But if you look at that picture, you're like, yeah, that's Modius when he's young. Like, what in the world? He made this? But yeah, so they escape and they capture the Plutonian, and they are the ones that are like, okay, let me show you what you actually are. And they show him all of this stuff. And turns out, yeah, he's not a Kryptonian, right? He's not another alien who is the last of his kind. He's this like cosmic being that these two other cosmic beings created, not in a sexual way, but just like, with our powers combined, we can make this thing. And it's supposed to be like a recording device. I think
like they came down. Yeah, they're like watchers, kind of, and that they come down to these planets and they just observe, collect, study, report back to this other circle of celestials out there in space. And they're like, so they come down to Earth and they're like, whoa, there's so much emotion here. This is the most emotion we've ever encountered. We need like a third one of us. So they make this like floating sentry orb to like float around and like record and reflect and learn to copy human emotions. And that's Tony. Tony was born as Orb.
It kind of like shoots out. They're just like, okay, go forth and venture the planet, Orb.
Yeah. Tell us what you feel.
It kind of shoots out like a Green Lantern ring, looking for someone to like choose, right? Or just to record something. And it's drawn to this woman who we can kind of infer lost her baby. The baby died, and she is so distraught and so just filled with grief and depression and all sorts of stuff that like this thing is drawn to her to be like, okay, what is up with you? And it ends up like the emotion is so strong that the orb ends up taking shape and becomes a baby, and it is the Plutonian.
Little Tony.
And then we see this like weird montage where the mom finds out she's not like, she's like, it's not just that she lost her kid, she's also a bad mom. Like we see him on the stove when the stove is on, and she's just like, what the hell? And then like there's a scene where he's eating rat poison, and she's just like, oh no, but you're still fine. And I don't understand this.
No, the baby died. It's unclear whether we know this mom is mentally ill, whether she, knowingly killed her baby, or if it was some sort of accident where she was unaware of herself and like dropped the baby or something. But she wants a second chance. She wants to start over. She wants redemption. And this is what Tony becomes. He becomes the new baby that can never die, no matter what this woman does. And you can tell that she's like, it's not like, oh no, the baby got into rat poison. She's like stuck in this ill loop where she's like, I'm going to feed the baby rat poison and the baby will die again. I'm going to light the baby on fire. But the baby never dies. It's just like a loop of her doing these things that should kill the baby, and the baby never dies. So she's become like trapped in a loop of the worst mistake she's ever made, just continually killing a baby, and then the baby comes back. And she puts the both of them in a car with like carbon monoxide poisoning, and she dies, but Tony, of course, lives through that. And then that's when he enters the foster care system that we've already seen him in.
Yeah. So that is the origin story of the Plutonian. That was another one of those twists, just like, surprise, we have giant celestial beings at the center of the Earth. Right? Where it's like they don't mention that for 8 volumes.
How could they have? How could they have foreshadowed that?
Like,
it's like what
they could have somehow,
yeah,
some way, right?
Something. It's like what we were talking about last episode with the Sun Asylum, where these aliens come out of nowhere, capture the plutonium, try and keep him in their jail, and then he breaks out, and they're like, he's too strong. We have to send him into the toughest place we know, the center of that sun. We're like, that comes out of nowhere in this like Deus Ex Machina. Like, you didn't say there were aliens, but you look at how cartoonish everything else around the narrative is, and you're like, I can very easily buy that there are aliens.
Oh yeah,
though.
for sure, indeed. I liked that the aliens also started talking with the people that were observing them and just befriending them, right?
Yeah.
So how was your Thanksgiving? Well, it was fine. I got to see Janet, and she was wonderful.
Yeah, there's just this like lab tech there monitoring them, like and we don't know who he's talking to.
Right.
And then we see like the radiation explode. This guy dies. These celestial beings rise up from the earth, and the first thing they do, we see them crying. They don't have faces. They just have glowing Mysterio orbs, but there's tears on them. They they pile these rocks together, and they like carve into it in memory of Kiang. Like, it's immediately clear these are benevolent, caring beings.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they know the second that they get released that, like, shit's fucked. Like, we have to do something. We have to help somehow.
Yeah, and like they know what's been happening out there, because I guess they hear the reports back from all the people who work at this monitoring station. So they're like, we're gonna go find Tony. Yeah. And Tony asks, they take Tony to the end of all existence. They can like warp through time and space, and they take him there. Like, okay, Tony, this is your prison. This is where you die. You will just cease to be, along with all other life, here in 10 times 10 times 10 trillion years in the future.
Yeah.
And the last thing Tony asks is, if you're going to leave me here to die, fine, but I need to know, why am I? Yeah. Not who am I, but
Gamora,
why am I? It's heartbreaking.
Right, yeah, and that's when he starts the whole origin story thing. But in the midst of that, we see Tony evolve and get some new powers, but it's not really clear on what exactly those new powers are. What he can survive is... Yeah,
and he starts leveling up to the level of his cosmic parents. Like, I guess now that he sees them, now that he has that example, he's like, okay, I've got something I know I can build myself to. Like, they're showing him the flashbacks of, and this was your birth, Tony, and this was the woman who you came to, and you lived as her baby. They're, like, showing him these flashbacks, and then Tony starts remembering, and we see his flashbacks, and the cosmic parents are like, what? He's showing us flashbacks. When did he learn how to do this? Yeah. How did he gain control of this narrative? Like, this is not a comic narrative tool. This is literally happening. They are showing him flashbacks, and then he starts doing it back to them. These cosmic beings also have 6 fingers, and you see Tony grow more fingers so that he matches them.
I didn't notice that.
Well, I didn't pick up on it the first time either. It was only when I was rereading it this time. I'm like looking at some scene later. I'm like, why does he have 6 fingers? And I flipped back, and he like grows more fingers to like emulate his parents.
Interesting. Yeah.
What a commitment to drawing your main character with more fingers for the next 2.5 volumes.
Yeah. Right. So I think in the midst of those flashbacks and all that stuff is when we get the like reminder of like, hey, we have a companion series in Incorruptible. right? Where there's like that I thought was maybe the weirdest part of these last three
I
volumes.
wasn't wild about the max damage stuff. I guess it's fine on its own, but like I've become so invested in these characters. Like, oh, where's Qubit? What's going on with Modius? Where are all
Mhm.
the where's the rest of the paradigm? What's Gilgamesh doing? To then take away from them for a long time. It's like we're gonna spend several chapters with a guy you barely know.
Yeah.
Right here towards the end of
Well,
the narrative. I'm
the-
like, this isn't where I want to
The
be.
weird thing is they don't really do anything with him at the end, and so it's this like weird thing of like, okay, I can see why you would want him there because you've had this sister series the entire time, and things are kind of finally wrapping up. So in the main Harry's now like, here is this character ready to help or do something, right? And he just doesn't do anything. Like they could have just taken that bit out and it would have been fine.
Yeah, like I think all the other stuff around him, like he goes and he finds Qubit, and then him and Qubit show up at the end of Eternity where Tony's has been imprisoned and they take him back to Earth. I don't think he needed to be there for that. I
Not
don't
at all.
remember if he gave any important information to Qubit that Qubit didn't already
He wanted to
have.
punch things. Yeah, he was just like, see, that's why I should fight him.
Right, and he's there's a lot of interesting powers in this book, and he's just like indestructible. Except for when he goes to sleep, then it kind of shuts down and it takes a while for his body to wake up to become indestructible again. So he's mostly indestructible. Like,
At night.
okay,
Yeah.
this isn't really thrilling to watch and observe.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't read those books, so I don't know. Like, it might be more interesting than this series has made it out to be. But yeah, it's there if people want them. I think those are on Comixology
I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious now, especially to see like another side of this world. And like if that, I don't know how long that narrative is, if Max Damage, if his story continues beyond the last point we see any of these characters in this book, if he has something to tell us about, and this is how the world ended up rebuilding itself after the Plutonian was gone. Yeah.
But yeah, we see all that stuff. I guess let's switch gears to Qubit and his plan. Or actually before we do that, let's talk about their plan B real fast, because I there's not much to say, I think, about
the
plan
seeds?
B. The seeds, yeah.
Wow.
So
This is
it's Kaiden and the ghost of Scylla. I think that's
it's
the one.
Charybdis.
It's Charybdis.
I don't
I don't know
remember.
which one's
This
which.
doesn't matter.
The one that died in like
Yeah.
the first 4 volumes. He's there and they go get Gilgamesh. They're like, hey, you're basically indestructible. You should be helping us. That would be wonderful. And he, I guess, comes up, eventually comes up with the idea of like, okay, we need to go get the seeds from the Tree of Life, from the Garden of Eden, because
deep underground
ancient.
under Iran, I think.
Yeah, I'm an ancient being, and the Garden of Eden is real. Aliens are real. Celestial beings are real. The Garden of Eden is real, right? But before they get to that, there's another big twist. That is, there's a third Summers brother. It's a Jay and Miles reference for you guys out there.
Yeah. So there's
Jay and Miles explain the X-Men. But yeah, so there's a third brother for Scylla and Charybdis that we didn't know. This is the survivor. They when that one brother died, he gave his powers to his other 2 brothers, and up until now, we only thought there were the 2 of them.
Yeah, like it was
But
these twins and they shared
Right, yeah.
power. And so when one of them died, the other one became like boosted
More
up in
powerful.
power. Like, oh, now that I don't have to share this power, I am about as strong as the Plutonian. I could I could take him down. And that's how we get the survivor. And then we find that they were triplets. There was this third brother who turned away from this life before he became a superhero. So he doesn't have a superhero name. It's Scylla and Charybdis and Elliot. and Elliot went off and became a monk because he's like, this power is not for me. This power can lead to destruction. I'm here to serve the
help
creation powers
people,
of
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the big twist, and Gilgamesh is just like, well, if we kill him, won't the powers just flow into the remaining one? And I think he ends up killing Survivor, right?
Yeah,
Stabs
thinking like
Survivor.
then the powers are going to flow to Elliot. Elliot, a good man. Elliot, who will have the amount of power that we need from the Survivor, but won't be this megalomaniacal, dictator over the superhero world that he's trying to rebuild.
Yeah. And so he stabs Survivor and kills him, but then the ghost of Charybdis, I think that's the right one, is just what are you doing? No, that's not how it works. We just lost our chance like that.
Right.
It's not flowing into him. He has to willingly give it up.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh.
Yeah, which
Okay then.
none of us had any way of knowing. It did seem like, okay, there's powers that these brothers share, but
Right,
no,
yeah.
it was Survivor's power. He was the one born with the power, and he would choose to share it among his brothers. So if you kill him, no, it doesn't automatically go to the other guy. It just dies.
Yeah, so we're left with a monk who refuses to fight, though he has the same strength as Survivor. And they're just like, okay, well, that's a bust. And that's when they're like, okay, let's go get the Tree of Life seeds.
Yeah.
And that way we can make the world, we can plant a bunch of apple trees and make the world immortal. And therefore the
Yeah.
radiation that has been
I would like
released,
to give the world a Coke.
Yeah, exactly. The radiation then won't affect these people because we're immortal.
Yeah, and they are freezing time. They're like, nobody is going to
Basically,
get
yeah.
sick, nobody's going to die, but also this stops the door between life and death. There's not going to be any new life. We're the end. This is the end of birth as well as the end of death. There's going to be no more future generations. And Kaiden, you and your ghost powers are now nullified. You can't reach over to the ghostly world to call upon these ancient Japanese spirits
Which
or to talk to your dead boyfriend.
That detail didn't make sense to me. I get that no one else is dying, but there are still dead humans from the past, which is what
No,
her
it closes the door. Like, death is no longer like an entity at all. Like, Kaiden could kind of reach over the door frame prematurely while still being alive and like talk to the dead. But now that like there's just no more death, she can't get over there.
See, I guess then what doesn't make sense to me is how eating an apple kills the entity of death.
I don't remember anything about apples.
I'm just saying apple as the like tree of life and tree of knowledge, and that's what they had in the Bible. It was an apple. Who knows? Maybe it was a pear. Just like
I don't think
with immortality.
We don't get that far. This is an interesting storyline in that it's like this huge decision that these characters have to make. Like, are we willing to face the rest of eternity being immortal in order to stop humanity from dying now? Like, it's either everything is destroyed or everything is stuck exactly the way it is permanently. And she makes this tough choice. Like, she's going to go ahead and do it. And she's got the seeds in her hand. And I guess they have like an open soil pit. She's about to like dump the seeds into the soil. And then Qubit shows up in one of his portals and stops her and grabs the seeds. Like, let's call this Plan B. So we spent a lot of time developing this moral quandary. And then Qubit just shows up like, no, don't worry about that. I've got got something better.
Yeah, which is I think now looking back on this series, that might be one of the weak points of this ending, right? Is that they leave you guessing so much that even in the last final volumes, they're spending time on things that aren't going to play out, right? And once you know that, it's just like, well, then why are we like? Why are we spending time on that then? Like, why can't we flesh out Qubit's plan more and his story and all all of that stuff? And
yeah, it's an odd trade-off in that the last thing we see is that Qubit sends the Plutonian through the multiverse, and then he goes and he becomes Superman. So we've reached this end, which is a new beginning of the Plutonian story, but we don't know what's happening back on the Earth we've been. And, like, we don't know what's happening to Qubit, to Kaiden, to Gilgamos, to, like, the state of the world at large. Like, we just don't know. It's open-ended like that. And it is... I don't know, it's both frustrating and comforting to know, like, it's up to you to figure it out. Like, the story that we were following stopped just short of any of those answers. There could be answers there. You just don't have them. This is kind of like how Mr. Robot ended. Like, we got one clear ending onto Elliot's story that answered a lot of questions, but there were still all these other odd things. Like, what about the safety deposit box that their mom had? like there's you get the sense that there's probably an answer to that question. The narrative just stopped before the period in time when the characters would get to whatever the answer is.
Right. Yeah. So Qubit, though. Let's focus on his plan, because that's kind of where things end up, right?
Yeah.
So we see Qubit trapped on this like prison sun planet with a dead Dr. Modius bot. A dead Dr. bot. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to reinvent science.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
And he takes the
I'm gonna have to reinvent science.
And he takes the alien who had the power to punch you so hard you flew back a couple minutes in time, and he like messes around with that guy. He makes something where he's able to loop time and get like a week's worth of other qubits. Because he's like, I could solve this problem, but it would take longer than the entire rest of my lifespan, so I need more of me.
Exactly.
Just to a planet of 100 qubits.
Which, presumably, they're still out there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how that works. Was he pulling them from different timelines, parallel?
No, I think they were pulled. No, I think they were pulled from just like hours in the future. Like this,
right.
Like he would use
this
like alien.
148 hours, but that's the whole thing with time travel. Is like once you, like, does that original one then have to do what he did to go back in there? Is that does that branch off the universes where he did that and where he didn't do that? And yeah,
I don't know.
But there's a bunch of them, and they fix in like a week's time. They come up with a way to go back to Earth, and then by time he gets there, things have gone to hell, and he's like taking notes on, okay, well, I guess I could work on this plan, or Dr. Modius must still be here because he wasn't with me this whole time. Who is he?
Yeah, he wonders, okay, there are two options. Modius either hopped consciousnesses into one of those aliens and left with Tony, or he didn't, and he was so despondent at Tony leaving that his consciousness just died.
Yeah. My love has left me.
Right. Which, like, is not over. Like, that fits, I guess, with everything else we've seen Modius do. I can see, like, I can see how Qubit came to that conclusion.
But yeah, so he starts to kind of formulate his plan of like, okay, I need to fix this radiation. How do we do that? Well, we need to give the Plutonian a second chance. And yeah, so in this weird, strange way, he like It's like, hey, I can give you a second chance, but you need to fix what you fucked up here first. And he's like, look, you're starting to evolve and get new powers. I can help train you to like get this stuff. And so we get the like Rocky montage of him like,
you're the
training.
best around.
And he's like, now we can do this power and we can do that, and there's certain minerals within the earth that we can mine, but you can do it faster by pulling them out yourself, by willing them to you.
Yeah, it's like test number 1, I can shoot bullets at Tony and they pass through his body. Test number 2, he can nullify inertia. I told him to stop the moon and he did. But yeah, Qubit has him
Stop that
mine.
Moon.
That moon's getting away. Qubit identifies all of these minerals like within the earth that will cancel out this radiation sweeping across the globe. And he has Tony just like pull them up from the ground like it's a magnet, just like pulling dust up and forming the dust into these like spears, and then they'll shoot the spears down from space into the ground, and that will like purify Earth.
Yeah, which doesn't work. And then they end up coming with up with some other plan, which again is some superhero mumbo jumbo.
Yeah. Okay. So Modius in Cutter's body has figured out. Betty comes back. Tony goes and finds Betty where she was hiding out, and to try and find some way to sleep with her again, I guess. And Modius like. Switches
plan is like, I am the mind that he wants, but I'm not the body. So if I can get inside Betty's body, the one that he has wanted for so long, then I can be the perfect being for him, mind and body, which is creepy and sweet at the same time.
Right,
but like,
which is all Modius is. Modius has such strong convictions, and there are moments of Modius's love for Tony where it is painted like very sincerely. Right, this is not part of a larger plot. He doesn't want to destroy Tony, except in the supervillain superhero back and forth fighting way that their relationship is acted out. There's moments where he's displayed the sincere, true love, but the way the love displays itself is with these truly horrendous supervillain actions.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to switch consciousnesses. I'm going to put Betty's mind in Cutter's body and then push her up to the top of this ghostly North Korea hotel. And that is where Betty ends. Betty's consciousness ends. She never gets to make up with Gilgamos. Yeah. They never get to see each other again. And then it's, Modius's consciousness in Betty's body. And that power she could do where she could like shoot a gun and warp the bullet and the bullet could hit anything. She never missed. She's got, like that Wanted movie. Wanted. Yes. What's the movie with the one with Angelina Jolie and James McAvoy where they curve the bullet around?
Wanted, which is also based off
Wanted.
Of a comic book. So
yeah. So like he's like, oh, she couldn't just do that. She can like warp black holes almost. She can like make gravitational wells. He's like, I always wanted to tell her, but we were just on opposite sides. Like I never got the chance to. Yeah. So he's like, well, now that I'm in this body, I know how to do it.
But yeah, so he ends up like making this, I guess, like black hole thing that the Plutonian flies around the earth in like Superman fashion to like to like suck up all the radiation. But what ends up happening is the radiation then needs something to go into, and it goes into the nearest thing that can hold it, which is the Plutonian. So by time we see him when he's done, he just looks like this old man.
He's old Cap.
Beat up. Yeah. He's old Captain America. And yeah, like it's really taken a toll on him. He looks weak. Like he looks like he can't really keep it together. And yeah, that's when Qubit is basically like, oh yeah, so by the way, my plan is to basically take your essence and like send you out into the multiverse. Like you're no longer going to exist here on this earth. You will,
Yeah,
in another form though, somewhere
yeah, because
else.
they have to destroy Betty's body to like do this, and so Modius jumps his consciousness into Qubit's body. But Qubit is like trapped him in a mind prison.
Yeah.
So this whole time we've seen whenever like the Modius bot, or when anybody has like Modius's spirit in it is like
purple eyes.
one like light up eye. So now Qubit it has two light up eyes. Like the eyes changed, and they've got this like kind of motherboard pattern on it. So now Qubit just has one glowing eye to indicate like, oh, Modius is back there, but I've got him under control. See my other normal Qubit eye.
Yeah, right.
So he's like, well, I'm just taking Modius's knowledge out of him. And with our knowledges combined, I made this device that will send you into Cleveland, Ohio, 1919, whenever the Siegel and Schuster boys were making comics.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to end it, because it's one you would never guess, and it comes so abruptly, right? Like you don't even know, like, so what, like they're sending him into the multiverse to get it, like what, how does that solve things? And then boom, aha, eureka, I got an idea, Superman, and it's just it hits you and it makes you think, and it's also just like, that's weird, but I like it. But it's sweet and it's endearing, and like it's just this really nice kind of deconstruction and reconstruction / love letter to superheroes and Superman and all the things he's supposed to represent and stuff like that. And it's interesting.
Yeah, I've never seen a story that has ostensibly knockoff versions of superheroes be like, yeah, these are the knockoff versions of other superheroes for a reason. They can't be that good. Our Superman type character can only dream of being as good as Superman. So when he gets the chance to reinvent himself, that's what he goes out and literally becomes.
Right? Yeah. Indeed. Oh man, it's good. I've been so excited to be just like, Melissa, he turns into Superman.
Yeah. He turns into Superman.
They invent Superman. That's how they end this.
What an ending.
Yeah, because it's also straight, like most of the knockoff superhero stories is usually just a comment on them, right? Or like, hey, I want to do my Superman story, but DC never hired me, so I'm just gonna change the names.
Yeah,
all of my stuff, right? And there's very few books out there that can do it in a way that comments on it, but is its own thing. And then with this one, it takes that weird turn that is like, well, then we're also going to turn it into Superman without saying it's Superman. Like, DC might have the rights to Superman, but they don't necessarily have the rights to the characters of Siegel and Schuster.
Yeah,
right?
these are just two boys.
Workaround.
Yeah, it's just two boys, and we see their notebooks that one says Siegel and one says Schuster on it, and they're drawing the roughest outline of a Superman that just has like a polygonal shape on his chest without an S in it.
Arms at his side, his chest puffed out, and that's it. Like, that's all you need. You're like, they're making Superman. Wow, interesting. So yeah, it's a surprise. It's a special book. I'm glad we got to finally read this and talk about it.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. There's a lot of stuff in there that I was not expecting. It's so dense. I wish there was more of it. Like you said, it's about 4 volumes. It's about 4 issues per volume. But if it was 5 issues per volume, like, imagine how much more depth we could get out of this.
Right, yeah.
Who
knows, indeed. Well, yeah, there is that sister side series, but besides that, that's it. This is the book. That's all there
Dang,
is.
like I kind of want to check in on that just to see if it continues past the point where the story ends. Like, hey, was Earth all right? But like my favorite characters were Qubit and Modius.
Right,
I spent most of these, like, I liked a lot of the characters, but I was also like, when are we getting back to those two? I like my obnoxiously smart guys and like crisp outfits, please. Yeah, so like if there was a Qubit side story or like Modius, the early days.
Right.
Modius was my favorite part of this book. I wish things would have played out a little differently because, like you said, he's like right on this sweet, creepy line. And I think he ends by like going too far. Like, yes, I'm going to kill Betty, steal Betty's body, make the kind of trap the plutonian in a power bubble to make him have sex with me. Like, it's too dark. Like, I knew what I was getting into in the beginning. Like, this is a superhero and a supervillain, and the supervillain's like, yes, he marked off all 40 checkpoints on the "Are you a psychopath?" test. Like, I should have known, but I was still hoping, like, this is the potential to maybe be a great romance, and it kind of is, and then it just sort of veers off a cliff at the end. I'm like, oh, dang.
Yeah. There has to be some like fanfic out there, some like Dr. Modius and Plutonian.
Yeah, where Modius stops
just
short and he's just, he's like, you know what? I'm going to resolve to just be the sort of tie you to train tracks round bomb. I have a giant robot and I'm going to stomp on, the mayor's gala. He's like only that level of villain.
That or just it just completely veers off where the Plutonian is like, you know what? I'm bored. You know what? Let's just have a romance. Picnics in the park, expensive dinners. Let's have it all, right? And it's just
or like I was kind of hoping
opposite.
that we would get this reset where they would figure out we're going back. We're going back to the day before you destroyed Sky City. You have your chance to start over, and we enter into another loop of just fighting over and over and over again.
Yeah,
it's like, it's me and you, Modius. We're here to face down for the fate of the city. And we'll do this again next month, the month after that. And we'll get to know each other closely throughout these many years of facing off over the fate of Sky City over and over again. And this is just what counts as a relationship for us.
Yeah, indeed. Well, do you have final thoughts on the series as a whole?
I dug it. I think it's a great thriller. I loved, the early panic of the first couple of volumes where it's like, what the heck do we do? None of us are prepared for this. We don't even know who this guy is. Where do we hide? Do we have any options? Like, it's so madcap. But then it also has these moments when it knows to like slow down and be still and to be thoughtful and very introspective. Yeah, I like what an introspective, emotional comic this is, as opposed to lots and lots of punching.
Yeah, which I might say that there is lots and lots of punching and not as much emotional stuff. It's there, but it's not enough. Is I think what I would say, right? Because it just moves so fast, and it's one thing, and it's this thing, and there are triplets, and there's aliens, and there's this, and there's there's so much, and so I think that may end up being one of the downfalls of this book, of just it moves at a breakneck speed the entire time, and then because of that, like you don't get to spend as much time with some of the characters that you want. And then, like I mentioned before, looking back, knowing the ending and seeing how in like volume 9 they're still being like, well, the tree of life, like we could do it that way. It's like, that's actually not gonna go anywhere.
They're still throwing new things at you right up until the end, which works for me. Just
charm.
It works for me because the story and like the aesthetics of it are so oversized and outlandish and brightly colored and cartoonish, where it can be like, aliens, the celestial beings. Tree of Life. Tree of Life was always here. We all know about the Tree of Life. Now let's go see it.
It's kind of the fun of this series, just to be like, okay,
Yeah.
how are they going to do it? So
Yes.
I you like that stuff in the moment, but yeah, then it's one of those things of like, well, looking back, now that we know what happened, it's just like, well, why spend all of that time if like none of this is going to pan out? Like I would be totally fine with just a montage of stuff where it's like, we tried this, we tried that, we thought of this, we thought of that, and it just, none of that stuff worked. But here's how we got to the thing that did work, and they just spend that time, But yeah, it's good. It's fun. It's short. I think it's a quick read. I think when I originally read this book years ago, I think I read it all in a weekend. And yeah, it was just like, I like this. It's a good binge read, and it continually moves, and it's just like one thing after the next. So I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. Let's talk about recommendations. What else would people like if they liked this, Melissa?
I think, I don't remember exactly what I talked about in the first episode, what my recommendations were, but I think I talked about other superhero pastiches. Like, I know I talked about Black Hammer and I'm not sure what else, but stuff like that. For this, I was thinking about what are some of my favorite superhero and villain relationships in other titles. Okay. Not like romantic relationships, but like as the hero and the villain, we have some sort of meaning to each other. You know, there's no
They're
me without
some
you.
Kind of dance.
Yes, the dance of the hero and villain looped over and over again. I can never truly destroy you. You can never truly destroy me. I think one of the best versions of that is the Lego Batman movie.
Interesting. I haven't
with
seen
Lego
that
Batman.
One.
Oh, it's great. I really recommend Lego Batman. That's a solid Lego Joker. Oh, something I picked up on in this book is that Mobius almost exclusively calls the Plutonian Darling when he does have a pet name for him. I think it's almost always Darling, which is what Joker calls Batman in The Dark Knight Returns. When like the Joker's been imprisoned and like Dark Knight's back on TV again and Joker's just been like catatonic and Arkham somewhere, he kind of wakes up again seeing Batman on the news and he's like, oh, Batman, darling. Yeah.
Darling.
So I recommend that. Megamind is one of my very favorite superhero tales.
I haven't seen that in forever, but I remember that being great.
It's so good. Megamind is about this villain. It's also kind of a superhero tale. It's like, what if, it's kind of a Superman tale where what if Superman came down, you know, we've got this baby, superpowers lauded by humanity. They love him. And then there was this other alien that looked like an alien instead of like a handsome man who came down and like this alien pod landed in a prison and he was raised by criminals and he grew up to become a supervillain. And it's about the villain always trying to destroy the hero, and then he does, and it's about like just the gap left in his life when he's like, I don't have Metro Man to fight anymore. What do I do? And he tries and makes a new hero for him to fight against just so he's something to do with his life, and then that hero goes rogue, and the villain's like, now I have to be the hero. Like, it's all come full circle.
Interesting.
And this might sound very silly, but another one of my favorite villain-hero relationships in media is Dr. Doofenshmirtz and Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb.
I was like, I've never heard of it. What is this from? Okay. Phineas and Ferb. That's why I've never.
Which is less super heroic. It's a mad scientist and a platypus who's like a secret agent with a little hat. And this sounds ridiculous. Phineas and Ferb is such a strong cartoon. It is one of the funniest, sweetest, greatest cartoons I've ever seen. I recommend it to people of all ages. And those two are an absolute gem. How it's this routine, like, yeah, go fight Dr. Doofenshmirtz today. And Dr. Doofenshmirtz, like, knows to expect me. And if I'm late, he's like, I don't know where Perry the Platypus is. He's supposed to be here. I'm supposed to show him this device. I'm supposed to tell him about my backstory, how it led me to commit this villainous act.
Interesting. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I think off the top, I'm sure I mentioned this at the start. Go check out Invincible. This is by Robert Kirkman, who is also the creator of The Walking Dead. This was his superhero comic that was running at the same time. I guess like shortly after, but he was just like, I'm gonna try my hand at the superhero genre, and I've only read half of it, so I haven't even finished it. But that book is incredible. It starts off seemingly very simple, very simplistic. And yeah, it starts off with this like knockoff, like, oh, here's the Superman character and his kid, you know, and he's training his kid to be the next Superman and stuff. And it just goes completely in a different direction, and it goes off the books, and it's wild. And I know a lot of people regard that as like one of the best superhero books that's out there. Like, you need to read this if that's your thing. But I also know that it's much longer than what we read here. It's like 20 something volumes. It's like 170 something issues. And then I think there's a couple spin-off series as well. So there is a lot of that stuff if you want more of that. But that is from all the stuff that I've read and all the stuff that I've heard, like, this is the one where, like, if you want the big action, you want the like no holds barred stuff of like things can be bloody, characters can die, like all that stuff, as well as the like emotional moments and character moments, because again, 170 something issues, like, you spend time with them, right?
Good.
I would recommend that, and I know that they are making an animated show of that, which will be on Amazon Prime. I believe the first like trailer is out now that you guys can go check out. So I would recommend that. Next up, I would recommend, I don't have one specifically, but I would recommend checking out more of Valiant comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they are a publisher that publishes superhero comics just like Marvel and DC, but they're much smaller. They don't have as many characters and all of that stuff, and so it's much more manageable if you want to read the entirety of all of their stuff. They used to be big back in the 90s, and then they went bankrupt, so ended up not being as big, and they were kind of dormant for a while. But then I think it was like 2011-ish is when they kind of relaunched all of this stuff. And I've read a good portion of that relaunch stuff, and there's some fantastic superhero stuff in there. They have a character who's like a mix between Thor and Iron Man. That's Exo Manowar. They have, they have all sorts of stuff. They have a character who's like Gilgamesh, the Eternal Warrior. And then you and I have covered some of the Valiant comics. I know we've read Quantum and Woody, which is more of the comedy side of things.
Yes.
Of like, let's take like brothers superheroes, but what if they're really bad at what they do? Like, it's a little bit more.
They're bad at being brothers to each other and bad at being superheroes.
Yes. Yeah. So it's more like that stuff. We read another one, didn't we?
We read earlier this year. We read Dr. Mirage.
That's right. The death-defying Dr. Mirage, which is more the like supernatural side of that universe. But yeah, if you want some more superheroics that is not Marvel and DC, I would recommend checking that stuff out. If you want more Mark Waid books, he had a very good run on The Flash back in the early 80s. He did a lot of the Wally West stuff back after Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think Wally West got his start, and eventually Mark Waid came on, brought back like the original Flash and all that stuff. So he has a great run on that. It's highly regarded. He also has a kind of an events book. I think it was supposed to be not canon, but it was so popular that they kind of made it canon. There's a DC book called Kingdom Come.
Oh yes,
he also did that book, and he worked with Alex Ross on the art for that book, so the art is fantastic. But yeah, it is kind of generations of heroes, as well as like different multiverse versions of like Superman and all of that stuff that get to appear, and it is again like a big superhero story. And I think it was the foreword of this book, or like the introduction that he wrote to this book. He was like, yeah, I did like my first superhero epic in, I think, this book that not as many people know about, I think is what he said. And then the second one was Kingdom Come, and this third one was this book, was Irredeemable. So yeah, go check out some more Mark Waid stuff there. So there you go. That's what I got for my recommendations.
Nice.
Yeah. Melissa, we already have the thing that we will be recording next week planned out.
Yep.
I again just want to mention I'm having issues with Premiere Pro, so we're going to figure out a workaround. It might just be that we have to do audio only podcasts for a bit, but we will figure it out. We will still get content out to everyone. So if you don't see our beautiful faces this next time, then expect an audio podcast. I'm sure it'll still be up on YouTube some way, somehow, and we'll figure it out. Who knows what? But yeah, that's what we'll do. So, but next week we are planning on still recording, and next week we are doing an anime called Great Pretender. This is on Netflix. It is about I don't even have the thing pulled up here.
I think it's about like a con man who inadvertently cons another con man.
Yeah.
He's trapped in a deeper con.
Right. And so he, I guess, then ends up working for him, of like, teach me your ways. Like, how come I didn't know that you were also, like, usually I can see that stuff, but like there's something different with you. So, that's what that's about. It's described as a crime comedy. I haven't started it yet, so
me either.
We'll see. But I'm excited to check it out. That is what we will be up to this next week. Season 1 is what we are watching. There's 14 episodes. I think season 2, I don't know if it came out this week or is coming out soon or something, but I know season 2 is on its way very shortly. Yeah, on the lookout for all of that. That's what we are up to this next week. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. I already mentioned the end of the year retrospective. That'll be the weekend of December 20th. We will let you know if that is the exact date very soon.
Yeah, I thought we were saying Saturday the 19th.
We might do it that day. I think that would be ideal. But I just want to make sure that we finalize that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so be on the lookout for that. Besides that, we are approaching the end of the year, meaning we don't have very many episodes left here in 2020. I think for December, Great Pretender is, I think, one of 2 that we're going to do in December.
Yeah, and then the one after that. Yeah, and then after that, it's my turn to pitch, and it will be our Christmas special.
Holiday special stuff. Yeah, I'm excited for that. And then I guess I'm in charge of figuring out what we do for the start of the new year, which is usually something that's also just like, hey, we now have enough time to watch something over Christmas break that might take a little bit more time. So I'm cooking up some ideas for that one. So we shall see what those will be. But yeah, next week, Great Pretender season 1. That's on Netflix. Go check it out. Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities. My brother Jams and I recap weird old kids shows. Our most recent episode was on Science Court, one of my personal favorites.
Science Court. I mean, it makes me think of the scene in Goofy Movie where he's like, "Science slumber parties." Science court.
Science everything.
Indeed. Yeah, you guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to stay up to date with our show, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Again, hopefully we'll have some updates on how we are fixing our issue. But be on the lookout for stuff. We will be getting them out to you as soon as possible. That being said, that's it. Go like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Go follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/thewhatnauts. Last time I checked, we are at 42 followers. We're hoping to make it to 50. So if you guys could help us out and spread the word, and go follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/thewhatnauts. That would help us out a ton. Let's see, do I need to mention anything else? I don't think so. Go follow us on youtube.com/thewhatnauts. That's where we will be. I think that's it though. So let's get out of here. This has been number 134. The Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.